Order. At this time, I would ask all unauthorized persons to exit the chamber. Chair recognizes my good friend and senator from Chickamauga.
Mr. President, it's a great day in Georgia and in the Georgia Senate. A moment in history. This very day in 1784, the Georgia legislature granted 40,000 acres to form a state college which would become one of the greatest universities in America, the University of Georgia. And also, the man from Osceola told me today is National Chocolate-Covered Peanut Day. The journal's been read and found to be correct.
Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? Hearing none, the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them up to the Secretary's desk at this time. Mr. Secretary, first reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Bill 160 by Senators Anderson, the 43rd, and others, a bill entitled Enactment Code Section 4876.1 of the OCGA, relating to use of safety belts in passenger vehicles so as to provide that all occupants of a passenger
Public
vehicle.
safety.
Senate Bill 161 by Senator Tippins of the 37th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education so as to provide for weighted scores for
higher ed.
Senate Bill 162 by Senator Brass of the 28th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Title 36 of the OCGA relating to local government so as to provide for disaster mitigation improvements and
regulated industries.
Senate Bill 163 by Senator Thompson of the 14th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Part 14 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to other educational programs under
education.
Senate Bill 164 by Senator Cowser of the 46th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Article 1 of Chapter 6 of Title 17 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding bonds and recognizances.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 165 by Senator Thompson of the 14th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education so as to provide for the designation of a nonprofit organization to govern high school athletics in the state, to provide for definitions, to provide for a governing structure, to provide for requirements for a board of directors, to provide for a representative assembly, to provide for a public liaison advisory committee, to provide for due process. 5.
Education.
Senate Bill 166 by Senator Jackson of the 2nd, a bill to enact the Georgia Enhanced Penalties for Hate Crimes Act to amend Title 16 of the OCGA relating to crimes.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 167 by Senator Brass of the 28th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Code Section 1511-211 of the OCGA relating to relative search by DA.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 168 by Senator Kirk of the 13th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Chapter 26 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to nurses so as to revise certain definitions.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 169 by Senator Thompson of the 14th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Chapter 9A of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to the Woman's Right to Know Act so as to include chemical abortion under voluntary and informed
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 170 by Senator Thompson of the 14th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Article 1 of Chapter 3 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to state and other flags so as to designate the Honor and Remember flag as the state's
veterans.
Senate Bill 171 by Senators Wilkinson of the 50th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Title 15, Chapter 2 of Title 21, and Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to courts, primaries, and elections generally, and
state and local government general.
Senate Bill 172 by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Title 8 and Title 36 of the OCGA relating to buildings and housing and local government respectively, so as to prohibit local governments from adopting or enforcing ordinances or regulations relating to
government oversight.
Senate Bill 173 by Senator Dolezal of the 27th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education, so as to provide for the establishment of educational scholarship accounts to provide for
education.
Senate Bill 174 by Senator Black of the 8th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Article 2 of Chapter 1 of Title 47 of the OCGA relating to restrictions and prohibitions on membership in public retirement. Senate Bill 175 by Senator Black of the 8th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 47 of the OCGA relating to requirement allowances, disability benefits, and spousal
retirement.
Senate Bill 176 by Senator Black of the 8th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Chapter 2 of Title 37 of the OCGA relating to administration of mental
retirement.
health. Senate Bill 177 by Senator Brass of the 28th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Chapter 1 of Title 28 of the OCGA relating to the General Assembly generally so as to provide for the requirements for consideration.
Reapportionment.
Senate Bill 178 by Senator Martin of the 9th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Chapter 3 of Title 44 of the OCGA relating to regulation of specialized land transactions to provide for statements of account under the Georgia Condominium Act and the Georgia Property.
Special Judiciary.
Senate Resolution 237 by Senator Cowser of the 46th and others, a resolution requesting that the United States Congress call a convention under Article 5 of the Constitution of the United States. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions, please.
House Bill 99 by Representative Smith, the 134th, a bill to title and act to amend Title 33 of the OCGA relating to insurance so as to provide for modernization and updates to amend various provisions for
Insurance and labor.
House Bill 121 by Representative Bruce, the 61st, and others, a bill to be titled and act to amend and act to incorporate the city of South Fulton, Fulton County, Georgia, approved April 26,
State and local government.
House Bill 167 by Representative Taylor, the 173rd, and others, a bill to be titled and act to amend Code Section 33, 23, 29 of the OCGA relating to authority of agent to act.
Insurance and labor.
House Bill 225 by Representative Rich of the 97th, and others, a bill to be titled and act to amend Code Section 41.8 of the OCGA relating to safe operations of motor carriers, commercial motor
Public safety.
House Bill 240 by Representative Hatch of the 150th, and others, a bill to be titled and act to amend and act to provide a new charter for the town of East Dublin, approved April 9th, 1981.
State and local government.
House Bill 246 by Representative Silcox of the 52nd, and others, a bill to be titled and act to amend Article 6 of Chapter 13 of Title 24 of the OCGA relating to depositions to preserve testimony.
Judiciary.
House Bill 274 by Representative Hill of the 3rd, and others, a bill to be titled and act to provide a homestead exemption from.
State and local government.
House Bill 291 by Representative Bonner of the 72nd, and others, a bill to be titled and act to provide for the creation of one or more community improvement
State
districts.
and local government.
House Bill 293 by Representative Bonner of the 72nd, and others, a bill to be titled and act to create the City of Fayetteville Public Facilities Authority.
State and local government.
House Bill 297 by Representative Dickey of the 140th, and others, a bill to be titled and act to abolish the office of elected county surveyor.
State and local government.
House Bill 304 by Representative Rose of the 120th, and others, a bill to be titled and act to amend and act providing for the Magistrate Court of Putnam County, approved March 12th.
State and local government.
House Bill 305 by Representative Burns of the 159th, a bill to title and act to authorize the governing authority of the city of Sylvania to levy an excise tax pursuant to subsection B of Code Section 48, 1351 of the OCGA.
State and local government.
House Bill 306 by Representative Burns of the 159th, a bill to be titled and act to amend and act creating the Screven County Industrial Development Authority, approved March 20th.
State and local government.
House Bill 358 by Representative Burno of the 77th, and others, a bill to be titled and act to provide for a non-binding advisory referendum for the purpose of ascertaining whether governing.
State and local government.
Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Secretary. Make a quick adjustment. Senate Bill 173 will actually go to Finance on the Senate first readers. Mr. Secretary, please read reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations had our consideration of the following legislation instructing the board to send back to the Senate for recommendation. Senate Bill 87 do pass. Senate Bill 89 do pass by substitute. House Bill 162 do pass. House Bill 163 do pass. House Bill 164 do pass. My Senator Kirk of the 13th. That concludes the order.
Secretary will read bills and resolutions for the second time.
Senate Bill 45 by Senator Beach of the 21st and others, Rural Georgia Jobs and Growth Act. Senate Bill 56 by Senator Huffstetler of 52nd and others, Consumer Coverage and Protection for Out-of-Network Medical Care Act. Senate Bill 65 by Senator Harper of the 7th and others, Alternative ad valorem tax on motor vehicles, transfer of a title between legal entities owned by the same person, not constitute a taxable event, provide. Senate Bill 91 by Senator Huffstetler of 52nd, non-public post-secondary educational institutions, exemption for dental schools, meeting certain criteria, provide. Senate Bill 115 by Senator Unterman of 45th and others, Medical Practice Act of the State of Georgia, telemedicine licenses for physicians in other states, engage in the practice of medicine with patients in this state through telemedicine, provide. Senate Bill 118 by Senator Unterman of 45th and others, Insurance Georgia Telemedicine Act, modernized Telemedicine Act, the Telehealth Act, rename. Senate Bill 119 by Senator Albers of the 56th and others, Georgia Measuring Success Act. Senate Bill 120 by Senator Albers of the 56th and others, Georgia Tax Credit Business Case Act. Senate Bill 124 by Senator Martin of the 9th, insurance language used in certain automobile and property insurance reduction of coverage notices revised. Senate Resolution 133 by Senator Beach of the 21st and others, Atlanta Region Transit Link ATL Authority, prioritize and encourage the use of technological innovation urge. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
If I could have everyone's attention, please. It is a great honor for me to be joined up here today by not only a great friend of our family, the Duncans, but also a great friend of the state of Georgia and an extremely hard worker for this great state and the values that we all are so proud to be able to represent in Washington, D.C. It's just an incredible honor for me to allow Senator David Perdue to address this great chamber and talk about his great work in representing us in Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Oh, please, thank you. You're very kind. Thank you. I'll be very brief. I know you have a full day's agenda ahead of you. I just want to tell you thank you for three different things. One, thank you for doing your job down here every year. I use you guys as an example of what we should be doing in Washington. In about 40 days every year, you come together and you fund the government of the state of Georgia every year. Georgia is one of 44 states that has a balanced budget law, and it works. But it only works because you guys get in here and wrestle it down to the ground and get it done, and I'm proud of you for that, and I want to thank you for that. We'll continue to use you as an example for our brethren in Washington who have only funded their government 4 times in 44 years since the 74 Budget Act was put in place. Imagine that. If you only did your job 4 times in 44 years, you wouldn't spend a lot of time at home because you have a rule that basically says if you don't fund the state of Georgia, you don't go home. Well, we have a bill in Washington that would do the same thing. So I may call on you to actually try to help me. The second thing is this state funded several years ago its portion of the cost required to deepen the Port of Savannah 5 feet. Now, we've been trying 20 years to deepen that port. Last year was the first time we got the federal government to pay a full annual share for that deepening. And now we're only 2 years away from having that port completed. It's the fastest growing port in the country. It's the 3rd largest port in the country. And more importantly, it's the only port in the country that exports more than it imports, and it's because of you guys doing the right thing here in Georgia. The third thing is right now, I want to thank you for what you've already done for our farmers in South Georgia. The disaster relief that you released last year has already begun to make a big difference down there. And I can tell you that this week, just last week, we got the president to okay, and he actually has been pushing this, to go ahead and have a standalone disaster relief bill and get it done and not tied up with any other things. It was in the funding bill that we were working on. It got pulled out at the last minute. The president went apoplectic about that. Now he's put pressure on us to put that in, and we hope to get that done as early as even this week. So I'll conclude by just saying thank you for doing your job. God bless you, and God bless the state of Georgia and the United States of America. Good morning. Thank you.
We'll let them take their pictures before we. Would now like to recognize our Doctor of the Day for a moment and would like to call on the Senator from the 6th to introduce our Doctor of the Day.
Thank you, Mr. President, fellow senators. I'm honored to introduce our Doctor of the Day, Dr. John Toomey. Dr. Toomey is the President, CEO, and Chief of Psychiatry at Foundation Psychiatry on the main Atlanta campus of Piedmont Hospital. He's a diplomat of the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology, and he's board certified in adult psychiatry. He also works with the staff at First Presbyterian Church of Atlanta and North Avenue Presbyterian Church to help provide psychiatric services to the homeless. We're glad he's here today to provide psychiatric services to the General Assembly. Help me in welcoming Dr. John Toomey.
Well said.
Good morning. Senator Jordan told me I'd be providing group therapy here, so no, I'm kidding. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for all you do, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's now time for our morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Chair recognizes the Senator from the 27th.
Good morning, Mr. President. We'd like to ask unanimous consent to excuse the Senator from the 9th for business outside the chamber.
Without objection, the Senator from the 9th is excused. Chair recognizes the Senator from the 12th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask for unanimous consent to excuse the Senator from the 15th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the Senator from the 15th is excused. Chair recognizes the Senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. I'd like for you to unanimously excuse the Senator from the 38th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the Senator from the 38th is excused. Chair recognizes the Senator from the 22nd.
Morning, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the Senator from the 15th for business outside of the Capitol.
Without objection, the Senator from the 15th is excused, and the Chair recognizes the Senator from the 7th.
Morning, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to excuse the Senator from the 8th.
Without objection, the Senator from the 8th is excused. Chair recognizes the Senator from the 46th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the Senator from the 37th for business outside the Capitol.
37th. Without objection, the Senator from the 37th is excused. Are there any additional motions to excuse? The Secretary will call the roll of senators. Signify your presence by voting the yea switch. The Secretary will unlock the machine. It is now time for our morning devotional. All senators, please take your seats and cease all audible conversations. Doorkeepers, please secure the doors. I'd like to recognize the senator from the 55th to lead us in our pledge and to introduce our chaplain of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, members. We will say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Georgia flag. Pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag, its principles, which is wisdom and moderation. It is my pleasure this morning to introduce to you, as I have before, as a matter of fact, because he's been here several times bringing his students, Minister Douglas E. Ely. He's M.A., M.D., and Ph.D. He's born in Athens, Georgia. Douglas Ely was raised in Landover, Maryland. Dr. Ely's credentials include a Ph.D. in political science, a M. Divinity in theology, and other diplomas and academic certificates. He has served and continues to serve in many ministries and community advocacy organizations across the state of Georgia. With a passion for education, Dr. Ely has a history of academic service at various institutions which spans over 25 years. Currently, Dr. Ely is a professor of human services at the University of North Georgia, where he has taught since 2003. Dr. Ely is an ordained minister licensed by the Deeper Life Pentecostal Assembly in Decatur, Georgia. Dr. Ely has been in this ministry for 35 years. He considers his ministry eclectic, having a background with various Christian communities, including Baptist, Pentecostal, Holiness, and Methodist. Dr. Ely and his wife, Gina, have been married for 30 years. They currently reside in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Visiting with Dr. Ely is Dr. C.M. Hawkins. He's sitting over here on the side. We will welcome him as well. Please join me in welcoming our chaplain of the day, Dr. Douglas E. Ely.
Good morning and greetings to this august body, to President Duncan, to my senator from the 55th, Senator Butler. I'm so pleased to be here again with you in a different occasion because I usually bring my students here with me. I invited them for extra credit, but I'm not sure that that worked for them today. But thank you again for being here. I want to take a little time in the spirit of Black History Month to just read a poem from one of our Renaissance authors, Langston Hughes. And the poem goes, "Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken wing life is a broken bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams go, life is a barren field without snow." To us, as we celebrate both Black History Month, and this is the last week of Black History Month, my devotion time, I want to transition into talking about how sometimes our dreams don't come to fruition and how we can work through them. As a person who is of various backgrounds, and one of the things that I do is that I'm an academician, but also in my role as a political scientist, teaching American government at the University of North Georgia, but also in mediation. One of the things that I have found in mediation is that it is important for several things to happen for us to be do very well in what we do. In Habakkuk, the second chapter, the second verse in Habakkuk, he writes, "Write the vision, make it plain, so that they may run with it." Too often what we do is we don't understand what visions are and how we can make visions work for us in our lives and those around us. Now, when we deal with conflict, Habakkuk was dealing with the conflict of how Israel was disobedient to God. they were lawless, and they had a lot of problems. And so Habakkuk was mad with God because God did not answer him. And then he was mad with God because God was getting ready to send the Chaldeans to overtake them. Too often we don't know what God's plans are, so what we do is we get mad with God, we get mad with ourselves, and then we move too fast. I would just want to say three things in our devotion time. The first thing is that Habakkuk, in the second chapter, he took a moment to stop and to reflect. And the scripture says that he watched. Sometimes we just got to watch, and we've got to watch, and we've got to remind ourselves that we don't need to respond to everything. To deal with conflict, we've got to take a step back. That is conflict within ourselves, conflict within our homes, and even in the places that we work. I work across 3 department areas at the University of North Georgia, and one thing that I have found is that I've got to work with all of these folks who are my colleagues. And if we continue to fight about things and we continue to not step back and try to at least understand one another, there's a problem. There's an old proverb, African proverb that says, when elephants fight in the jungle, the grass suffers. Too often, the grass suffers. It is the little people. When I fight with my colleagues, when I fight with the folks in administration, you know who suffers? My students. So I've got to take the time to step back and to reflect and to watch. The second thing that scripture says is that he had to write the vision. Write it down. Now, I turned 62 a few days ago. And in turning 62, I've learned that I've got to write a whole lot more down than I used to. I used to tell my daughter, I used to say that I had a photogenic memory. And this little 18-year-old girl told me, she said, Dad, it's photographic. I said, I have a PhD. I know what it is. She said, it's still photographic. So having a photographic memory or my photogenic memory, I've got to write things down. But sometimes I lose my notes. So I've got to remind myself of, sometimes I've got to remind myself of what the notes are. Even the notes that I had today for the reflection here, I had misplaced them. And when I finally found them, I was relieved. Writing it down helps us to help others. The third thing that I want to say here is that not only do we need to write it down, let me say also is that writing things down, the problem is that Lou Rawls used to say that a mind is a terrible thing to waste. For some of us, a mind is a terrible thing because we don't use it effectively. We don't use it to engage others effectively. So what we need to do is we need to take the time to sit back and to reflect and write down some of the things that may be painful to us so that we can interpret it and we can help others. The last thing I want to say is that we've got to wait. Habakkuk writes and he says that the vision will not tarry. It will eventually come. Too often, we're so impatient that we don't wait on God. We don't wait on God's message to us, and we want patience in a hurry, right? We want it to happen yesterday. And too many times we are so impatient that we can't hear the voice of God when God speaks to us. So we've got to slow down, and we've got to wait on how God speaks to our hearts. The final thing I'd like to say to you here is that you've got to be faithful in whatever it is that you do. What Habakkuk found out was that God wanted him faithful because he had decided what was right for Israel. However, God had decided what God perceived was right for Israel. Too often we try to make God's plan our plan, and we don't wait on God to give us the plan, and we're too impatient about what we do. When I got married, my pastor told me that my wife and I, we were getting ready to go to California, and I was getting ready to go to seminary. Now, my wife is from Georgia. She is from Norcross, and therein, she had never lived anywhere else except in the state of Georgia. And so when we got ready to leave, she did not want to go to California. Now, probably her fingernail prints are still out there on I-20 where we left the state. Because she did not want to go way across country to be in a place where she had never been before. My pastor told me, he said, there are two things that you should remember when you're married. The first is she is following a vision that she's never seen and a call that she's never heard. It's up to you to interpret that vision. And it's up to you to interpret that call. And how you interpret that call will determine your relationship with her. Too often, we don't interpret our vision. I don't always say the right words when I'm talking to my students, where they're going and where they need to be. Too often, we don't interpret it to those who are around us, our loved ones. But it is up to us to interpret it so that people can run with the vision. They're not behind you because you've not interpreted the vision correctly to them. So I say to you, as a person who has dealt with a lot of conflict and how we deal with conflict and how we need to interpret the vision to those around us so that they can be with us and so that we can walk in God's plan. Shall we look to the Lord in prayer? Oh God, we thank you for our time together. How grateful we are for this special time of this session and what the session means to each of us. Now, God, we ask that you will continue to bless these thy people. Put your hands on them, that their hearts may be fixed towards you, and that your word says, look to the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. It is in the name of our Christ we pray. Amen.
If I could have your attention for a moment. There are many great honors in this role that I'm discovering as Lieutenant Governor, but one today that I'm extremely proud to be able to be a part of is recognizing the Senator from the 13th. Son is here with us today, Private First Class in the U.S. Army, Jeremy Kirk, and he's back here home on leave, and I'd like us to take a moment to express our gratitude for his service to this nation. Thank you. God bless you and your wife. Thank you so much. This time, are there any unanimous consents? We have some special guests with us today that we'd like to recognize. Will the Secretary read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 181 by Senator Dugan of the 30th and others, a resolution recognizing the members of the 2019 University of West Georgia Student Government Association and Blue Coat ambassadors for their outstanding commitment to student leadership on campus and in the community and for other purposes. Whereas from as early as 1917, the University of West Georgia Student Government Association has striven to be the official voice of the student body. Now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend the members of the University of West Georgia Student Government Association and the Blue Coat ambassadors for exhibiting an outstanding dedication and commitment to leadership on and off campus, and Senate Resolution 183 by Senator Dugan of the 30th and others, a resolution commending University of Georgia President Kyle Marrero and for other purposes. Whereas President Kyle Marrero has made a significant impact on the West Georgia region over his leadership over the last 5.5 years at the University of West Georgia. Now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend University of West Georgia President Kyle Marrero and express their deepest gratitude for his commitment to higher education in the state of Georgia. That concludes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon our Majority Leader to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since 1917, the Student Government Association at West Georgia has skillfully represented the students of our great campus there. They and our ambassadors, called the Blue Coats, represent a widely diverse student population that spans the entire globe. Please join me in welcoming Madeline Bunn to speak on behalf of our university. Madeline.
Mr. President and Senator Dugan, thank you so much on behalf of the University of West Georgia for having us. We are very excited, and go Wolves.
All right, thank you.
Right over here. Let's go over and take some pictures. We have some additional special guests with us today that we'd like to recognize. Will the Secretary read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 25 by Senator Thompson of the 14th and others, a resolution recognizing and commending Big Door Vineyards and for other purposes. Whereas Big Door Vineyards officially opened on September 13, 2018, and is an invaluable addition to Bartow and Cherokee counties. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend Big Door Vineyards for its many accomplishments and contributions and extend best wishes for its continued growth, development, and success. That concludes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon the Senator from the 14th to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Mr. President. I truly am honored today. Many times we get a chance to honor various people, but today I get to honor a small business just a few hundred yards away from where I live that over a period of time have really tried to be able to bring small business to our community. And without getting into too much detail, they have encountered exactly what we're trying to do in this body, is eliminate bureaucracy to be able to give people the opportunity to thrive as a business. Today, I'm honored to be able to bring to you Big Door.
Audience, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, Senator Thompson, Majority Speaker, and Lieutenant Governor Duncan, thank you for inviting us into this auspicious chamber. And realizing we're delaying business for this occasion, I would simply like, on behalf of Big Door Vineyards to express our deep and humble appreciation for this honor.
Real quick, as humble as they are, I will say this. They overcame all of the obstacles to be recognized as the #1 wine in the state of Georgia, as well as being recognized in California nationally.
Thank you, guys. Let's take a picture down here. We have some special guests with us today that we'd like to recognize. Will the Secretary read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 27 by Senators Butler, the 55th, and others. A resolution commending Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and recognizing February 25th, 2019 as Delta Day at the State Capitol and for other purposes. Whereas Delta Sigma Theta Sorority is a public service organization founded on January 13th, 1913 by 22 visionary women at Howard University in Washington, D.C. Whereas Delta Sigma Theta Sorority is a sisterhood of college-educated women dedicated to academic excellence and committed to providing assistance. Now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend Delta Sigma Theta Sorority for its continued commitment to public service to recognize February 25th, 2019 as Delta Day at the State Capitol. That concludes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon the senator from the 55th to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. It's my honor once again this year to bring to you Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I was looking at the Oscars on last night, and one person gave a massive shout out. And I want to do the same thing today to my good friends with the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. Founded in 1913 on the campus of Howard University by 22 visionary college women. During its 103 years of existence, Delta Sigma Theta has impacted communities and transformed lives of individuals across the world with a 5-point program thrust. Number 1, economic development. 2, educational development. Number 3, international awareness and involvement. Number 4, physical and mental health. And number 5, political awareness and involvement. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority is a sisterhood of college-educated women dedicated to academic excellence and committed to providing assistance. Delta Sigma Theta has instituted its annual Servant Leadership Award in recognition of the former state representative, Georgiana Sinkfield, for her service as the longest-serving female in the history of the Georgia General Assembly, and former Commissioner Porter E. Costin, a Trailblazer Award in recognition of her service as the first African-American female commissioner elected in Fayette County, Georgia. Today, our guests are Rhonda Briggins, our good friend, D. Dawkins Hagler, another one of our good friends, Ms. Essence Johnson, Denise Walker, another one of our good friends, Joy McLeod, and I'd like to shout out to Elaine Lucas up in the gallery. And there are some other ladies up in the gallery that we have to shout out to. It's my pleasure to present to you this resolution, and I'm presenting to, who am I presenting to? Rhonda Briggins. She lovingly calls me Mom.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Thanks to my other colleagues for joining us up here, too.
Thank you, Senator Butler.
And thank you for all of the years of always acknowledging the Deltas and all the work that we do. This morning we have about 240 Deltas from around the state of Georgia here to bring their issues to you, to let their voices be heard, but more importantly, to make sure that you understand the needs that they have for their citizens and their communities. Thank you each for everything that you do for the citizens for the state of Georgia. Thank you. Oh, and may we recognize all the Deltas? All the Deltas stand up so you can be recognized. Some of them went out on the other side. We have a lot of them in the house side.
We have additional special guests with us today that we'd like to continue to recognize. Will the Secretary read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 147 by Senator C. of the 34th and others, a resolution recognizing and commending Kathy E. Loving and for other purposes. Whereas Kathy E. Loving was the first emancipated minor from the state of Illinois via Governor Otto Kerner, and she opened the first Black History Museum and the first school history museum in the United States. And whereas Kathy graduated with honors from Georgia Military College in 1994 with an associate's degree in criminology, she graduated summa cum laude from St. Leo University in 1996 with associate's and bachelor's degrees in arts. And whereas she gives inspiration to many through her high ideals, morals, and deep concerns for her fellow citizens, and the devotion, patience, and understanding she demonstrates to her family and friends are admired by others. Now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body join in recognizing and commending Kathy E. Loving. That concludes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon the senator from the 34th to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'm going to be brief as requested because I really want you to hear from the honoree. Kathy E. Loving, she's a friend, a constituent, and an overcomer. She has overcome many obstacles in her life. She was the first emancipated minor from the state of Illinois via Governor Otto Kerner. Her emancipation came when one officer believed her story. To find out more about her story, you can go to YouTube, Unsolved Mystery Kathy Loving, and it continues to say she met Fred Lyles. It's a story worth taking a time to look into. During this time of Black history, I want to introduce you to my constituent and many more of my voters, because as you know, this is my 19th year being in this body, and it's these people that help keep me there. Now, I will end by saying I want you to hear just a little something from Kathy Loving.
Thank you very much, Senator C., and thank you for having me, and I appreciate the honor. We all know we have an opiate problem. We have a problem with children being in foster homes and children being abused and sex trafficking. Let me give you just a moment to tell you my feelings about it. Citizens and members of various organizations and boards, they speak of strangers in our villages and communities, and all are in one accord. They speak with elegance, sincerity, and a charismatic smile of the entire necessity of the villagers coming together to raise a single child. Now, the strangers alluded to, we all know for a fact, are sex trafficking, homelessness, prostitution, babies having babies, and the dope peddlers crack. We continuously speak of the past and how when many children are without a dad and the absence of mothers too, rendering them so very sad. How when these unnurtured kids arrive cold and raggedy to school with their cups running over and sometimes cutting the food. Administrators and staff unaware they're being mentally, physically, and even sexually abused. Empty hearts and bellies swollen with pain, they can't help but to break the rules. How they, in the words of the late Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays, are reaching for their stars, wishing, even hoping for some peanut butter and jelly to miraculously appear in an empty jar. There's no doubt that our villagers have let these children down. Just look into their innocent eyes filled with tears accompanied by their sad frowns. It must be a challenge to villagers of communities and all to get off our duffs, rid our villages and communities of these strangers, and get on the ball. You know, when you saw your neighbor's child misbehaving and you had permission to scold, and if that child looked like there was a problem, you come to its aid and not let the abuse faster to the casket in which they someday may be laid. Yet it will take all of us within our communities and villages to raise a single child with caring, love, understanding, nurturing, and hand smile. But to rise to this challenge and accomplish this worthy goal, we must rid our communities and villages of these strangers and reach deep within our souls. The strangers, prostitution, babies having babies, sex traffickers, opioids, and the dope pushers must go for our children to be raised in peace, love, and harmony. This we all know. Then and only then will village child raising be a success. For it is only then will we villagers have passed God's most important test, that of rearing our children in safety and love to be their very best. Thank you very much.
Powerful. Powerful. Thank you so much. We're going to come right here and take a picture.
We have an additional special guest with us today. We'd like to continue to recognize. Will the Secretary read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 126 by Senator Anderson the 24th and others, a resolution commending and recognizing Annie Hines and for other purposes. Whereas Annie Hines is a highly praised special education teacher at Grovetown High School, tirelessly directing an extraordinary amount of time and talent towards guiding students to a brighter future. Whereas Annie's dedication to her students has been marvelously exemplified by her work with James Proctor, a Grovetown student who she helped through his journey from medical recovery to graduation. And Senate Resolution 127 by Senator Anderson the 24th and others, a resolution committing James Proctor upon the grand occasion of his retirement for other purposes. Whereas James Proctor graduated from Grovetown High School on December 20th, 2018, in spite of the significant challenges that he faced in 2012 when he was beset by a series of life-threatening aneurysm, forcing him to temporarily leave school in order to focus on his recovery. Now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body heartily commend James Proctor for his spectacular scholastic endeavors, his perseverance in the face of adversity, and express their most sincere best wishes for continued success. That concludes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. Chair would like to call upon the senator from the 24th to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, as we always do, sometimes we get it backwards here at the Capitol, but this is supposed to be a surprise to the teacher that helped this great student that's here in front of us. But also we have a resolution for our teacher that helped James Proctor get his high school diploma this past summer. But, you know, Senator from the 12th, you know, all of us remember our teachers. Well, we also, it's a special person when you have a special ed teacher. And my heart's all for special ed teachers. And at this time, I'd like to present the teacher that helped James Proctor get his high school diploma this summer, Miss Annie Hines.
Well, I wasn't prepared to say anything, but thank you so much. This is an honor. It's been an honor to be able to work with James, and thank you. I'm just at a loss of words, and thank you so much.
Let me explain a little bit about what James Proctor. James Proctor in 2012 had a brain aneurysm. And this young man bounced back, and like I said, got his high school diploma this past summer. You know, God Almighty puts a burning desire in each and every one of us to do our very best. It's left up to us to make that happen. James Proctor is a great example. He has used his talent, and we need to recognize James Proctor for being a great student and a great person for the great state of Georgia. James, would you like to?
Thank you,
Ms. Hines. And thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hines. And thank you, Ms. Petty John. And thank you for, thank you for the family. Thank you, the Senate and everyone else.
Mr. Secretary, will you read the resolution for our next special guests?
Senate Resolution 120 by Senator Miller of the 49th and others, a resolution commending Salvatore Ferragamo and for other purposes. Whereas Salvatore Ferragamo was born on November 7, 1971 in Florence, Italy, and has become an internationally respected entrepreneur. And whereas Salvatore has been dedicated to providing unparalleled customer service and support.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon the distinguished senator from the 53rd to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my honor to be before you again with the Gordon Lee High School ladies softball state champs of Class A. They have been state champs for 9 years in single A. The fast pitch title is now the second most of all time in Georgia history. Gordon Lee has won it all, 8 of the last 9 seasons, and is now the first Georgia High School Association fast pitch program to capture all consecutive state championships in the last 2 separate times. Gordon Lee finished the year 32-1, and tying their 2011 team the same record, which had the undefeated record of 38-0 in 2010. With me today is Coach Mull and seniors Paxton Grimes and Kelsey Lee. Only 2 seniors, so you know they're going to be powerful again. So if you would help me recognize, if you Lady Trojans would stand up in the gallery, Georgia State Champs Class A High School Softball. Thank you.
Is that just your journey? Mr. Secretary, will you read the resolution for our next special guests?
Senate Resolution 152 by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th and others, a resolution honoring and recognizing the Georgia Association for Career and Technical Education and the career and technical educators who prepare many Georgia students for the workforce and for other purposes. Whereas Georgia's CTAE programs and GACTE's members are helping their students prepare for their future careers, with more than 130,000 students completing a pathway in a specific industry or job year in fiscal year 2017. Now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body honor and recognize the Georgia Association for Career and Technical Education and the National Celebration for Career and Technical Education during the month of February. That concludes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. Chair would like to call upon the senator from the 17th to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. We have three special guests with us today from our technical college system. First, I'd like to recognize Ms. Stephanie O'Donohue. And Ms. O'Donohue is an instructor at Chattahoochee Technical College, where she teaches electrical and computer engineering. She was the recipient of the 2018 Rick Perkins Award, given to the top instructor in the technical college system of Georgia. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to recognize Ms. Catherine Ballard from Lanier Technical College. Ms. Ballard distinguished herself among her peers and was selected as a 2018 Eagle Award winner. And that stands for Exceptional Adult Georgian and Literacy Education, and is awarded to the Adult Education Student of the Year. Congratulations, Ms. Ballard. And last but not least, I'd like to recognize Crystal Wright from Georgia Piedmont Technical College. Ms. Wright is an interdisciplinary student and the 2018 Gold winner. This award is the highest honor a technical education student can receive in our state. If you will please welcome Ms. Wright. You want to say a few words?
Good morning. Again, my name is Crystal Wright, and I represent more than 100,000 students within the technical college system of Georgia as the 2018 Georgia Occupational Award of Leadership recipient. As Student of the Year, my main goal has been to help keep Georgia at the forefront of education and career-ready day one. The affordable career-focused programs allowed me to first obtain my certification as a nursing assistant in just a single term. I was able to quickly obtain employment and continue pursuing my goals. After a challenging yet convenient course load, I am proud to say I am a graduate of TCSG's #1 LPN program. Having a 99% first attempt passing rate for the national licensure exam, I was more than well prepared to enter Georgia's healthcare workforce. Technical education is affordable, the training you receive is priceless, and job placement is high with no stopping in sight. These are the reasons why I'm so passionate about being an ambassador for technical education. To Governor Kemp and the General Assembly, I'd like to sincerely thank you for your generous support. Your partnership ensures that the students you serve are well prepared for successful careers. Thank you.
Points personal privilege. At this time, we'd like to recognize senators for points of personal privilege. Chair's calls upon the senator from the 35th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today is Africa Diaspora Day, and I thank you for the resolution that was passed that said Africa, being the cradle of world civilization, is made up of 55 distinct countries, and also is the world's second largest and second most populous continent, and the most multilingual continent in the world. We are represented today, and many are in the gallery, and many are over in the other gallery, and they make up Zambia, the Congo, Cameroon, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, the Ivory Coast, Gambia, we have Libya, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Tanzania, and Uganda. And the resolution that you passed also talked about many of the traditions that we celebrate and practice in the United States originate from the people from the continent of Africa. And there are many current Georgia residents who were born in Africa and are now residing in the state of Georgia and in most of your districts. And whereas the African community has contributed positively to the economic, social, political well-being of the state of Georgia, and whereas the members of the General Assembly appreciate the presence, productivity, and many contributions of these residents. Let me just recognize some who are standing with us right here against the wall. We have His Royal Highness, His Majesty, King Shaola Akinrisimi. And he's in the white. You can clap. We got a real king here. OBA. We have the Honorable Cynthia Blatford. She is our honorary, she's the Consulate General of Liberia. We have Awet Izawi, am I pronouncing your name right? Our city council person from Clarkston. We have Matilda Arkin from Ghana's International Chamber of Commerce, and she's all over the world. And we have a special surprise, another African, Bobby Hunter, Harlem Globetrotter. He want to give you something. So, want to go up there and hand him the thing? Or will he come down? While he's going up there, and we have all the members, so let's give the hands, stand up, all of the people from, there you go. Get a nice warm welcome. We love you all, and we can't wait to get down there for the Taste of Africa food that's downstairs for everyone. And Bobby Hunter is our Globetrotter. Just one word.
Globetrotters are ambassadors, and we are going to be ambassadors in Africa also.
And you have to get a pen to get it signed.
And I have to get a pen to get it signed.
Okay, you got a pen? An ink pen somewhere. And I'm going to end by just saying we have a Taste of Africa on the South Rotunda. We invite all of you to come by and taste the delicious dishes. There are many guests from all over the motherland, and many currently hold dual citizenships. So please, one other thing, please come down and taste the cuisine. We're recognizing the power of African continent, 55 of the states, the countries, and its diaspora in the community, establishing relationships and celebrating with each other. And I think I missed Bishop Otta Jube right here, and Sharon Hill with ERA, and that has brought all of us together with Matilda. So thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well, and I look forward to seeing all of you come down and get a taste of Africa. Thank you.
For what purpose does the senator from the 3rd rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the rules be suspended to allow Senate Bill 182 to be first read and referred to committee.
Will the secretary read the Senate bill?
Senate Bill 182 by Senator Ligon of the 3rd and others, the bill we title Enactment Article 4, Chapter 4, Title 27 of the OCGA relating to seafood so as to provide for mariculture development, to amend Code Section 12.5.295 of the OCGA relating to applicability of activities in coastal marshland so as to revise and add an exemption certain and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
The senator from the 3rd has asked for unanimous consent for the rules to be suspended and Senate Bill 182 to be read for the first time and referred to committee. Is there objection? Hearing no objection, the bill is assigned to Natural Resources. Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th for a point of personal privilege. Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief, but many of us are down here because our families have supported us. And back home, today is my wife's 55th birthday, and I just want to wish her a happy birthday. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 18th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Today we are celebrating Mercer Law Day, and I hope we've got some Mercer Law students. All right, we've got them in the gallery. I am a proud graduate of Mercer undergrad and Mercer Law School, and our law school, with over 145 years of operation, currently has over 400 students. It oversees the longest continually published law review in the state of Georgia. The current dean, Dean Kathy Cox, a former member of the House who served in the Georgia legislature for many years, and as many know, Governor Deal is an alum of the Mercer Law School. So if I could ask the folks in the gallery from Mercer Law School, please stand. Let us give you a warm Senate welcome. Y'all join me. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 50th.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. I'm kind of pinch hitting for the chairman of the Education Committee today, but I have these talking points. It is pre-K week, pre-K day at the Capitol today, and we have our mascot over here. Now, I'm not going to get into animals, humans, or anything like that, but we do have the mascot for pre-K, Callie. So now, also, I know a lot of you, one of these days I'm going to ask you to raise your hand if you participate in the pre-K week during the first week of October. I can look around and tell that most of you have. And I'm really disappointed that our whip is not in the gallery at this time, because in his honor, this is his birthday, and they have selected a book that's really based on the life and times of our whip. And so if you've looked at your book, you will see that the title of the book is Llama Llama Red Pajama. So I'm very sorry that he missed that recognition. Now, on a real serious note, I do want to say this. All the experts say, and the research tells us, that the best predictor of a student's performance in school for the rest of their educational career is whether or not they can read on grade level at the end of the third grade. And in Georgia, we are fortunate to have one of the best pre-K programs in the nation. And our pre-K program has done a wonderful job getting our students ready to hopefully read on grade level when they finish the third grade. So again, I would remind you that pre-K week will be the first full week of October. This year it will be October the 7th through the 11th. So when you have the opportunity and you're called on, I hope you'll visit your local pre-K programs and read the book and maybe share a little bit with them about your experiences with our whip. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise this morning for 2 points. One is I have constituents from my district of 44 from McNair High School. If they are still here, Dr. Long, the principal, and Ms. Copeland, and the students from McNair. If you're in the gallery, would you please stand? Let's give them a warm welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here at your capital. Now, this morning, colleagues, I rise first to pay tribute and to recognize one of my constituents who passed away, Mr. James Pete McQueen. Mr. McQueen was a school administrator and former deputy superintendent of the Clayton County Public Schools. He served as chairman of the Water Authority. He was active in the Clayton County Retired Teachers Association and always advocated for retirees and made the report to the organization about state legislation each month. Mr. McQueen, as he was affectionately called Pete, passed away after unexpected complications from just a routine outpatient medical procedure. The memorial service is today at 1 o'clock at the First Baptist Church of Mara. So we are in prayer with his wife, Mrs. Gwen McQueen, and their son, Greg. So, Mr. President, I ask for just a moment of prayer for Mr. James Pete McQueen, and we recognize his life and his legacy today.
The senators ask for a moment of silence. Please rise for a moment of silence.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes our pro tem.
Thank you, Mr. President. It gives me great pleasure to come to the well today to greet a group of senior adults from Gainesville Hall County, from Lanier Village Estates. And I think it's okay to call them senior adults because I'm one too. But these senior adults in our community are engaged and involved. They're from all over the country. Many of them are from all over the country. Some of them are from Hall County. And they contribute to our community in a unique and profound way. And we appreciate the culture that they bring to our community, the diversity they bring to our community, the intellect and the integrity and the involvement they bring to Gainesville and Hall County. Can I get the folks from Lanier Village Estates to stand up in the gallery so we can give you a warm Senate welcome? Thank y'all for being here. And y'all can all go home in your Hondas now because you arrived at one accord.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th for our final point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you may have seen today, we have lots of visitors here at the Capitol, and I would be remiss without recognizing that we also are having Pakistani Day at the Capitol here today. As you all know, the state of Georgia and Pakistan have a strong history of mutual friendship, admiration, and respect. The people of Georgia and Pakistan have deep bonds of beneficial business, bilateral trade, and economic interests. The state of Georgia and Pakistan has maintained a special relationship based on shared democratic values, common geopolitical strategic interests, and mutual respect. And the people of Georgia and Pakistan enjoy enriching cultural, social, governmental, and educational relationships and interactions. We all know that Pakistani Americans have become an integral part of mainstream American society and have made innumerable contributions to our state in the fields of finance, technology, law, medicine, and education, to name a few. Pakistan remains committed to peace with its neighbors and continues to promote mutual respect and understanding between cultures and religions, enhancing stability and promoting prosperity and democracy and diplomacy throughout the world. As the Pakistani American community prepares for a new era and creates new history, Pakistani Americans ought to install and will install in younger generations an appreciation for the courage and values of their forefathers, a deep sense of their roots, and pride in their own cultural heritage and religion, so that they will continue to be such great citizens of our state. I would ask that if any of the folks are still here, if they are in the gallery, we will rise so we can recognize you. And thank you for all that you do and the great friendship and relationship between Pakistan and Georgia. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Moving on, you have a consent calendar of local bills before you. Changing gears. You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to the adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? Now, you have a consent calendar of local bills before you. Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed to the bill on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, there are no objections filed.
Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the Committee on State and Local Government Operations, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. The question is on the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar. All those in favor will vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bills, the yeas are 48, the nays are 0. The bills on the local consent calendar, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. We're now moving on to the rules calendar. Secretary will read Senate Bill 43.
Senate Bill 43 by Senator Payne of the 54th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Article 3 of Chapter 82 of Title 36 of the OCGA, relating to revenue bonds so as to revise the definition of the term undertaking as it relates to electric systems and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Chair would like to recognize a senator from the 54th to speak to Senate Bill 43.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 43 is a simple bill that's to allow any government body with electrical utility assets for book value, net book value of less than $300 million, the ability to issue revenue bonds for electrical transmission infrastructure needs. I bring this bill to this body as the Dalton City Council had voted by unanimous vote, and also the mayor approved and asked me what it is. Dalton Utilities has the ability to issue electrical power. In transmission, however, they cannot do it up to a certain point without having further needs for their infrastructure. So I just ask for your support for the bill. If there are no other questions, Mr. President, I will yield the well.
You have no questions. Oh, actually, Chair would like to recognize a senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator well?
Yes, I will.
You said this was a simple bill, but doesn't this concern Plant Vogel?
No, absolutely no way. This past week, I've talked with many people who've been at Dalton Utilities for many years, and this has been something they've been trying to do for a long time to give local control for their local infrastructure and needs. They already issue revenue bonds 1 year ago. they issued $80 million in revenue bonds for an upgrade to the utilities water filtration system. And they didn't have to come to this body or any other body. They're just asking for the same ability to do that for their power infrastructure needs.
Will the senator yield?
Yes, I will.
Isn't it true that Dalton Utilities owns 1.6% of Vogel?
Yes, the minuscule 1.6%.
In just this last August, there were another $2.3 billion in overruns with respect to Plant Vogel.
I assume the senator knows of which he speaks.
Will the senator yield?
Yes.
Now, what was interesting about the bill is that it actually only applies to utilities over, is it 300 or 600 in assets?
With assets, with electrical assets, less than 300 million.
So is it true that the bigger the utility, the less the transparency with respect to the voters in terms of these revenue bonds?
No, because before any such action to be taken in Dalton's case, the Dalton Utilities Board must first affirm the decision to do so. The City Council and Mayor must then also affirm the decision, and then the Superior Court of the Consolidated Judicial Circuit would also have to validate the decision.
And isn't it true, out of all those listed, no one was a taxpayer, correct?
Yes, they are taxpayers that live in the community.
Do you yield for another question?
If there are no more, yes, I will yield for another question.
Chair recognizes the minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will you yield?
Yes, I will.
There are two issues. One's about transmission, and one is about a referendum. As far as the debt, right now, they could raise the debt, but they would have to have a public referendum. Is that not correct?
To raise the debt?
Well, the debt limit.
I'm not sure of what you're speaking
The
about.
bonding. What's the referendum being eliminated? What would that do if you previously...
The reason we're doing a general bill so that we could bring all parties to the table, the electrical manufacturers of our state and producers of our state to the table to have a word, and just making sure that everybody was approval of this, and everyone is.
But to increase the revenue bonds, could they do that now if they had a referendum?
I'm sorry?
If they increase the revenue bonding capacity, could they do that now if they had a referendum?
Yes.
So this is only necessary to...
But not without approval of this body.
They could do it now without a referendum, though, right?
But not without approval of this body.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Yes.
Isn't it true, and I think I heard you, but I want to make sure I heard you correctly. This has nothing to do with Plant Vogel.
Absolutely nothing to do with Plant Vogel.
You have no more questions.
I will yield the way. I ask for your favorable support of Senate Bill 43.
Do any other senators wish to speak for or against the bill? The chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea, opposed nay, and the secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bills, the yeas are 42, the nays are 12. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. It is a great honor of mine to take a moment here to introduce to you Congressman from the 8th District, good friend of ours and a great representative here in the great state of Georgia, Austin Scott. Help me welcome him here to the Senate.
You know, after 14 years in the Georgia House, I wondered what it looked like over here, and but yeah, our takeover is almost complete. I just at home today want to stop by and say hello, thank you for what you do, and just encourage you to keep the decorum of the Georgia legislature. It is the state and the local governments that deliver services, and I'll tell you, in the 14 years I was here, the House and the Senate, while we may have had, you know, few disagreements, people got along, and in the end, the job got done. And it's extremely important that people continue to see that out of this Capitol. And so, if I can ever help you, let me know. It's our pleasure to be of service to you. And Senator Mullis, I don't have anything before the Rules Committee. I just want you to know, so I'm not open to extortion today, or I'm just picking on you, but you earned it. But good to see you, and if I can ever help you, let me know. Thanks, and God bless. Thanks, man.
Mr. Secretary, will you read Senate Bill 68?
Senate Bill 68 by Senator Sims of the 12th and others, a bill we titled Enactment Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education so as to strengthen provisions relating to the financial management of local school systems, to provide for training for local Board of Education members and local school superintendents on financial management, to provide for monthly reporting to the local Board of Education on the financial stability of the local school system, to provide for designation by the Department of Audits and Accounts of high-risk local school systems and moderate-risk local school systems based on annual audits and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
The chair would like to recognize the distinguished senator from the 12th to speak to Senate Bill 68.
Thank you, Mr. President. Over half of Georgia's annual budget is dedicated to education. Along with these appropriations come accountability and oversight from those entrusted with the disbursement and care of school budgets. It is the will of both legislative and executive branches to make certain that every school-age child is afforded a quality education through these appropriations. Taxpayer dollars must be accounted for properly. SB 68 addresses issues related to annual audits on school systems that continually receive findings of irregularities or budget deficits each year. Many Georgia school districts are consistently facing financial issues. Every year, school systems are audited in Georgia, and those audits often find accounting irregularities or budget deficits. School board members are elected officials and are subject to constant turnover. This leaves financial management up to a number of individuals with limited accountability and limited coordination. Current law does not provide any incentives to keep a system's finances up to par. Many school board members aren't equipped to oversee fiscal affairs nor are they properly trained. SB 68 would ensure that the school boards need to be accountable for the system's finances. SB 68 would also provide training and additional resources to get board members up to speed to manage their systems, and it sets up a tiered system of regulation. Moderate risk systems with irregularities or deficits in the past 1 or 2 years, so we'll have moderate risk systems, and high risk systems have irregularities or deficits in the past 3 or more years. Moderate risk systems would be required to submit a response to the failed audit. High risk systems need intervention. All board members would be required to attend training. The board would be required to submit a response. A high-risk system that is renewing a charter system or strategic waivers contract would also have to include a written corrective action plan. Board members must complete these trainings to also stand for re-election. That ends my presentation, and if there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? The chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 53, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary, will you please read Senate Bill 73?
Senate Bill 73 by Senator Harper of the 7th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Code Section 15-1880 and Article 4 of Chapter 17 of Title 47 of the OCGA relating to policy and procedure relative to pretrial intervention and diversion programs and revenues collected from fines and fees relative to the Peace Officers Annuity and Benefit Fund and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
The chair recognizes the senator from the 7th to speak to Senate Bill 73.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, if you remember last year we passed a bill that added a $5 fee on pretrial diversions to help the financial stability of the Peace Officer Annuity and Benefit Fund. This bill simply streamlines the process on how that $5 gets to the POAB. If there are no questions, Mr. President, I yield the will.
You have no questions. Are there any other senators who wish to speak for or against the bill? The chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 54, the nays are 0. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Mr. Secretary, will you read Senate Bill 66?
Senate Bill 66 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others, a bill will be titled Enactment Title 36 of the OCGA relating to local government so as to enact the Streamlining Wireless Facilities and Antennas Act to streamline the deployment of wireless broadband in the public rights-of-way to address any perceived conflicts between this act and Chapter 66B of Title 36, to provide that nothing in this act relieves any person of any duties provided for in Chapter 9 of Title 25 and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 66, a bill will be titled Enactment Title 36 of the OCGA relating to local government so as to enact the Streamlining Wireless Facilities and Antennas Act and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair would like to recognize the Majority Whip to speak to Senate Bill 66.
Mr. President, since it's my birthday, the pro tem would like to present the bill for me so I could go back to my chair, but we'll get a unanimous vote out of that one. But anyway, thank you, colleagues. This is like the phrase from Yogi Berra said, deja vu all over again, right? Last year we dealt with this issue. Small cell technology is very important technology in deploying infrastructure throughout our state. 22 other states have already adopted similar language. I would submit to you that Georgia's bill is going to be the best bill in the country only because the compromises that were put together over the last 7 months between our local governments, the cities and the counties, working with our industry folks, have spent thousands of hours with attorneys and stakeholders, local elected officials, officials in this room, looking for a compromise on some of the issues that we dealt with last year. Those compromises have come to fruition. They're in this bill today. It's about 27 pages long. I'm not going to go into the details of it because I believe you know where you stand on the issue. Anytime you get a letter on your desk that shows AT&T, Verizon, ACCG, and GMA all support something, we should probably do like the 56th Senator District when he teaches a fire drill. You stop, drop, and roll out of the well. But this bill does set up, basically it's a standardization process. It standardizes the application process for these companies to be able to deploy this 5G technology in the public's right-of-way. There's provisions in the bill dealing with all the concerns that the local governments came up with last year, dealing with underground utilities, historic districts, the number of applications that can be applied for at any given time. Every issue that came up last year has been dealt with in this bill. They are in complete agreement as presented to you today. So, Mr. President, if there's no questions, I'm going to stop in the interest of time and ask you to vote for this bill, and we'll move it over to the House.
Senator, you have a question. Do you yield?
I will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I will for you, sir.
Well, you know, a minute ago, you said stop, drop, and roll. And since it is your birthday, would you demonstrate that activity for all of us?
I would rather not, in case the place catches on fire. Then we would do it.
Good fun.
Thank you.
You have no more serious questions.
And you consider that one serious, but thank you.
The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? The chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass by substitute? The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair would like to recognize our distinguished majority leader.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 o'clock on Tuesday, February 26th.
The Secretary will read our announcements.
Rules will meet upon adjournment in 450 of the Capitol. Finance will meet at 1 p.m. in Mez 1. Insurance and Labor will meet at 1 p.m. in 310 of the CLOB. Education and Youth will meet at 2 p.m. in 307 of the CLB. Public Safety will meet at 2 p.m. in Mez 1. Health and Human Services will meet at 3 p.m. in 450 of the Capitol. Judiciary will meet at 4 p.m. in 307 of the CLB. And Urban Affairs will meet at 4 p.m. in 125 of the Capitol. That concludes the order.
Chair recognizes a senator from the 36th for an announcement.
I'll be brief. We'd like to invite all in my earshot here in the Senate to come to the Voting Rights Caucus lunch today over at LOB 406. The special guest speaker is Dr. Richard DeMilo, who will be talking about election security. He's a Georgia Tech professor. You are welcome, one and all. LOB 406 upon adjournment. Thank you.
Any other senators wish to make an announcement? The majority leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Tuesday, February 26, 2019. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it. We stand adjourned.